But you were wrong.
Tactical consideration.
But you were wrong. It wasn't now or never.
But it literally was. And even in retrospect,
Briahna,
you don't think they should have gone for it?
No, but you have to.
Okay, we'll have to agree or disagree.
You have to deal with objective reality. So look, I hope for the last
Cenk,
time, for God's sake.
The audience can weigh in on whether they think what I described or what you have described as objective reality.
Okay,
the objective reality is that those margins existed for 2 years, and now they're out of power and they can't do squat, and they never tried, and now they never will, right?
Okay, the inability to discern tactics is maddening. Okay, so
that's an ad hominem attack, Cenk.
Cenk and Briahna did once again get together to hash things out, this time on the Bad Faith podcast. And as I was saying to Bri, I do have to give them both a shout out for actually, sitting down, having these discussions, because
they look so stoked to be having this conversation.
Right. Yeah, but at least they will have it, right? A lot of people, they get so egotistical. Their skin is so thin. Obviously, I'm talking about Jimmy Dore. They'll never actually sit down and debate their ideological opponents. They'll never actually hash out the disagreements they have because they don't actually care about ideology. They don't actually care about political disagreements and hashing them out. They just want to, pound their chest and say you're a moron. And sometimes we do the same thing. I don't want to debate every single person we've ever criticized, to be fair, but I still think we do a pretty good job of engaging with people who feel differently than us, right? And definitely you can say the same thing about both Bri and Cenk. A lot of people have a lot of feelings about both of these commentators, but I do think it's cool that they were able to have this discussion, and this is maybe their third discussion, at least their second long form debate. Anyway, pretty civil for the most part. They kept it classy, but yeah, the gloves came off at about 52 minutes into this. So this is pretty entertaining.
Being voted on was going to no longer exist. Then the possibility of losing your leverage is not there, because the leverage comes from what the margins in the House are. The leverage came from the fact that
wait, Gavin.
Cinema.
I haven't watched this yet, as I mentioned, but I'm just going to go ahead and go out on a limb here and say they might be talking about force the vote. Boy.
Yup. Still talking about it.
Or the entire life of the Vanguard channel has come and gone and, begun to reemerge again. Boy, I love it. That discourse will never die. I'm listening, but I'm also going to be really...
Democrats literally could not pass anything either without them or without Republican complicity. And to me, that's a win-win. Either you get a bunch of Republicans on board voting for Nancy Pelosi, and then they have to defend that in their districts, or you get a bunch of, if it's on a given issue down the line with respect to the reconciliation stuff, you get a bunch of Republicans crossing the line to help Joe Biden, and then great, that's something that they can be attacked on later on. Or you actually get what you want, the way that Republican Freedom House caucus members were able to extract and are continuing to be able to extract meaningful concessions out of a Republican Party that, frankly, overwhelmingly does not agree with them. Most of the Republicans are establishment Republicans who love the same old things from the neocon era, but somehow this little group of misfits have managed to punch way outside their weight class. And all we're saying is, tactically, we think we're right, because the tactical considerations, the leverage could not actually have been torn away from the squad members, because the leverage lay in the distribution of the House. And what we knew was that was only gonna last 2 years. And we also knew that the only bites of the apple we were gonna have were these 2 reconciliation cuts. And so it was now or never. And that was our tactical
were wrong.
Consideration.
But you were wrong. It wasn't now or never.
But it literally was. And even in retrospect, you don't think they should have gone for it?
No, but you have to.
Okay, we'll have to agree or disagree.
You have to deal with objective reality. So look, I hope for the last
Cenk,
time, for God's sake.
The audience can weigh in on whether they think what I described or what you have described as objective reality.
Okay,
the objective reality is that those margins existed for 2 years, and now they're out of power and they can't do squat, and they never tried, and now they never will, right?
Okay, the inability to discern tactics is maddening. Okay, so
that's an ad hominem attack, Cenk. So if you want to be critical of other people for attacking people's intellect or their reasoning skills or things like that, then I think that we should hold ourselves to the same standards. We disagree, and we're talking about our disagreement. You don't have to accuse me of having an inability, as frankly someone who's very well trained and having good analytical skills, of having a technical being.
It is hard to argue with Briahna's point here, where it kind of was now or never, dude. We didn't get fucked from shit done during the 4 years. Like I mentioned, it's annoying to still have this conversation. I relate to that sentiment. To be honest, I didn't get to ask one, but I imagine Briahna's, She doesn't love this being her like namesake. You know what I mean? I don't know if she wants to. Briahna Joy Gray, the force the vote lady. Like maybe she would have preferred Briahna Joy Gray, former journalist at The Intercept and Bernie Sanders press secretary. Like Briahna Joy Gray, host of the Bad Faith. Like, you know what I'm saying? But looking at it, like Cenk is just coping. Okay, this is a man who's like, he wants to talk about analysis and like reading the room and having political acumen. Dude, you couldn't even get to 1%. Like, you couldn't even get to 1% in your home state of California in the primary. I don't think he got 1% of the vote in California's Democratic primary. Let me look. I don't want to be wrong. I don't want to snub him.
You mean in
let me see.
2024?
No, yeah, like when he ran for president.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how I did in California. I don't even know if he got on the ballot.
Let me look. He's not listed anywhere. And the final person that gets listed had 0.3% of the turnout. So all I'm saying is that maybe this guy shouldn't be like so confident, like, oh, I'm just gonna like deliver all these answers to people. It's like, dude, people don't want your answers.
Yep. And as I said in my conversation with Brie the other day, I am thoroughly convinced to this day that Cenk Uygur would have supported Force the Vote if Jimmy had been friends with him still. Like if Jimmy had still been part of TYT or even just still supportive of TYT publicly, I am thoroughly convinced that Cenk Uygur would have been like, yeah, of course we should force the vote. Of course we sent the squad members to force the vote instead of voting for freaking Nancy Pelosi. What are you talking about?
Same
you think
with
they
Sam.
should all just what was that?
Oh, same with Sam Cedar, I think also. I think
Oh, yeah.
I think that was the big annoyance for all of us, where it was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, you guys want to talk about how that guy is a divider? You're letting him get away with that.
Yeah.
Don't let him get away with that. You think we bite our tongue about Jimmy when he's wrong? Fuck no. I love to like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I love to do it. He makes it so easy sometimes. It's like playing wiffle ball. You know, everybody loves a good game of wiffle ball. You crack a couple of beers, you have a good time with the fellas, you take some cracks, you feel like you're, you know, A-Rod for a moment, right? That's how it feels, you know, to debunk a Jimmy video. You're like, oh God, all right, let me crack my knuckles here. But that doesn't mean that a broken clock is never right. Like, we were just parsing through the things that Rabbi Shmuley, for Christ's sakes, had said that were correct on his, like, you know, lube video. It's like, well, you know, is he, you know, he bet like, you know, 065 in that video, but at least we gave him credit for the hits he had. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Being technically unable to assess the tactical situation here.
Okay,
Right?
so let me try to address all these things as quickly as I can, because this is the most irrelevant debate of all time.
Well, I would love to move on.
But hold on. So let me explain my position, because again, you put out things that are okay. So
all I
Briahna,
pointed out was
hold
that
on.
the
Let me
margins in the
just-
House don't change, Cenk. That's the only thing I added to this conversation. The margins in the House don't change. Do
Okay,
you disagree with
Briahna.
that?
He's gonna
No,
start
Briahna,
throwing a
can I just
tantrum. can
answer
feel
it for God's sake? So
Please.
Here it comes.
number one, on the personal stuff, you said it just a minute ago that you didn't care that somebody was claiming we're a CIA operative,
No,
etc.
not that I didn't care.
You didn't
but
care.
that I didn't
but
do
you
it,
didn't
and that's not-
care.
It's
And he
irrelevant
piled
anyway.
on.
But
You
Cenk,
said
what I
we
actually
were
said is
wrong
I'm
and they
not
were
aware
right.
of
The
that.
lunatics were right. You said the
No, there
lunatics were right.
I said,
so you want to
I
get
said-
personal, I can get personal
No,
on it.
Cenk,
And now
I
you're
said
taking
that-
offense at the slightest thing.
Okay, obviously she wasn't necessarily signing off on every single thing every Force the Vote supporter also said at the same time frame. Like, yeah, I think probably Briahna would agree that a lot of the crazy ad hominem stuff from Jimmy was unnecessary. Like if he was calling people like Cenk CIA for not supporting Force the Vote, but like, yeah, that's not really the point. Now you're just bringing up these distractions, which you admit are distractions, to distract from the conversation, the actual substantive conversation that Briahna is still trying to have. I'm not 100% sure why, but she is still
Bro.
trying to have the substantive disagreement. And you're the one bringing up all the distractions to sidetrack from actually just answering her question.
Bro, it's so funny. Keep this frame right here. Don't unpause it. It's like this the face I make when my mom drives past the McDonald's, but say we have McDonald's at home. You know what I mean? It's like,
I gotta get a screenshot of that.
But when I told my mom I want pizza rolls for lunch, but she said we don't have pizza rolls. Like, dude, oh man, like the face you make when you realize the Force the Vote crowd actually was right. Like, you know, it is like, like we could play this game for hours, right? It's like Briahna when you realize you're 55 minutes and 26 seconds into a conversation with Cenk Uygur, and you haven't gotten anywhere with him.
I said because I disagree with
Cenk,
your tactics.
I
But
said
I'm not
that the
supposed to take offense that a lunatic is saying I'm backed by the CIA when I'm the guy
Cenk,
who set up the group to challenge the establishment. So you're allowed to take massive personal offense at the slightest thing that I just said, but I'm not allowed to take
Bro, she
any
doesn't look
offense
like she's
at a
gonna be
massively
positive, man. I'm
lunatic
sorry.
position.
We
What?
just look at, oh my god, we gotta keep playing this game, dude. Like this is just a goal. This is that face you make when you fart really loud, but then smell it. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's what anyway, I can't. I'm sorry, I'm losing it. I'm losing it at this. But he's like the embodiment. We quote this scene too much on the podcast, but everybody knows the scene at the diner in The Big Lebowski where it's like, and it's like, would you just calm down? Would you just take it easy? It's like, oh, I'm calmer than you are. Calmer than you are. You know, and it's just like, dude, Jake is like, why are you freaking out? You're taking all this personal offense. And she's like, I'm trying to have a conversation with you right now. Like she made one, like, you know what I mean? She made one comment to Fort, like he's mad that she said that she was perfectly qualified to think like whatever, you know, critically or analytically or whatever the fuck the quote was. I'm like, now he's just absolutely melting down. He's just malding, which is what Cenk does really well. What's crazy to me is that somehow they milk another 37 minutes of this.
That you largely supported throughout. Okay, so okay,
Cenk, what I said was
trying
force the
desperately
vote.
to put the personal stuff aside and
Cenk,
get back
what
to
I
the tactics.
said, Cenk, what I said was that force the vote was right. And I said I was not aware of any accusation. I think people have an outside sense of what people are paying attention to. I don't know about any accusations of
You
CIA.
didn't know
I've
that
never
Jimmy
heard that
Dore
in
was
my
making
life.
unhinged accusations. You didn't know
I
that?
gotta tell you, Cenk, that specific one I've never heard. I've heard him make fun of Ryan Grimm's toupee. I heard him make arguments in favor of force the vote. And if you jog my memory, there's probably some other personal attacks. Remember, they all decided you guys started to all go back and forth about who's the biggest sexist because of things that happened in the past. I stayed out of that. I don't care. I don't care. And I think it's for both of your benefit that I didn't weigh in on any of that because there was some wrongdoing all around as far as I'm concerned.
What
that wasn't my concern and it continues not to be my concern. I don't want
he's like taking it back. Oh,
Another great screenshot there.
I can't. I'm sorry, guys. I'm laughing at these screenshots too much. This is healing. Never mind. We can just keep playing, right? Like,
to get
he
into
wants
that
her to
dirty
white knight so bad.
What was that?
He's like, oh, she didn't white knight for us, and yeah, you didn't fucking come out here. And I didn't see any videos on your channel about you know how Jimmy was a deranged sexist who made a comment about Anna and a workplace that you don't work at.
I want to talk about the strategic considerations behind force the vote. That's it. So I think the strategy that was articulated by Jimmy Dore was right. The strategy, yes.
Yeah. Now get back to strategy versus tactics. You said, hey, their leverage is maximum in those 2 years, and the vote count is in those 2 years.
Yes.
That's what I told you. That's what of course I agree with that. After the 2 years is over, it's totally irrelevant. So the question we were discussing, Briahna, is when within those 2 years do you use it? And you guys said, use it right away, use it all. Now, what I know from Washington is, as much as it frustrates all of us, and it makes me want to tear my hair out because they wasted years of my life, I knew that if you ask for the maximum thing, they're going to think that you are not credible. And then once they think you're not credible, and yes, that's super frustrating, guys. You think I'm not frustrated by it? Those guys that I helped to get elected telling me I'm not credible because I'm asking them to do their job. I know, but that's why you had to hold for a moment where it was important. So for example, Pago.
Yeah. Come on, bro. We all know that you didn't support Force the Vote because Jimmy Dore was the one behind it. Let's be honest. I just hate this gaslighting where he's like, no, I do support them using their leverage, just not in the one incredibly obvious, instance where they could have maybe got something for it. Like, it's just stupid to me. And obviously, no one sent the Justice Democrats to Washington to vote for freaking Nancy Pelosi. Like I said, like, come on, dude. You could say we wanted something other than Medicare for all. That's what I think David Sirota said at the time. He was like, here's some more serious or more realistic asks. I thought that was fair. I think Briahna did too. Like, I don't hold anything against David Sirota. I don't think most people do, because he was obvious. Like, he understood the appeal of the strategy. He was like, yeah, this is obviously how they should be behaving. They're the left flank. They're not supposed to just go in there and vote for Nancy Pelosi. If they're going to vote for Nancy Pelosi, they should at least demand something in return.
100%. It's just cope. Cenk came out, like, I remember during the whole force the vote kerfuffle, like it had just died down for the first time, like the window had closed, and then he was like, I know, what if we try and do this kind of force the vote strategy, but for a different thing? And it was like, okay, dude, you're not going to replicate the momentum that you saw on the internet when force the vote got trending. You know what I mean? You're just mad that there was a lot of attention that got drawn to Jimmy's channel. And one of the things that I do think is a bummer about Force the Vote is how, like, Jimmy did manage to just kind of equip it to grow his own channel and not push it to any other means beyond that. Like, we all know that all the money that was fundraised from that Force the Vote stream went and got donated to the People's Party to just get pissed away by Nick Briahna. A lot of people giving their hard-earned money, you know, and it sucks too, because one, so many super chats got donated. You could have just set up a organization. That was not what happened. It just went and got pissed away to Nick Briahna. And so it wasn't constructive at all.
100%. And I think that's the most legitimate criticism of the whole force the vote movement, which is kind of the fact that ultimately Jimmy Dore and Nick Briahna sort of just hijacked it all and used it as a fundraising attempt for the People's Party, which obviously was just a way to line Nick Briahna and Jimmy Dore's pockets. So yes, that all very unfortunate. We've called it out a million times. That being said, they didn't have a debate about what happened after the force the vote movement concluded. It was about the strategy itself. And I like to think that, you know, Briahna, Crystal, Kyle, their hearts were really in the right place, even if Jimmy's wasn't.
Oh, dude, 100% it was. It just, you know, I just wish that was the conversation, was like how effective it was and how many voices amongst the left, like across the left, you know, for Crystal Ball, Kyle Kalinske, Briahna Joy Gray, David Sirota, you know, a lot of people got behind this idea of like how we could apply pressure, and it would have been nice to, you know, have that culminate in something. But at the end of the day, you know, we're all just, you know, amorphous people shouting into the void of the internet. So anyway,